New polling data forecasting a shakeup in City Hall.
Sir, a question about the Democratic primary for mayor.
We asked Mayor Brandon Scott if he's concerned about the new numbers putting him in second place. Juvenile Services transparency catches the attention of lawmakers. Our team questions what action they may take to improve the program and address the juvenile crime crisis. Then we're digging deeper into the criminal history of two parents charged in connection with the triple shooting near a school.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
We have breaking news to report to you. There's been a shooting at the University of Las Vegas. Police say the shooter is dead. This is a live look at the scene near the university's business school. Shots were also reportedly fired near the student union. Authorities say multiple people are hurt, but the exact number is unclear. Now, Las Vegas police confirmed the shooter's death in a tweet just minutes before we came on the air. They say that shooting is still under investigation and are telling locals to avoid the campus during their response. This is a developing story, so we'll bring you the very latest as we learn more on air and online at foxbaltimore.com.
Right now, I think that the mayor should be concerned about these numbers.
Well, the 2024 mayoral race is heating up in Baltimore, and a new poll finds voters may be leaning toward a change at City Hall. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. The newly obtained poll numbers in the Democratic primary for mayor show Sheila Dixon is the preferred candidate for Baltimore City voters.
Fox 45 is also following the race for the White House in 2024. Tonight, 4 candidates will take the stage for the third GOP presidential debate.
We have team coverage tonight on a local and national level. National correspondent Audra El-Nashar taking a closer look at the presidential race and what we can expect out of tonight's highly anticipated debate.
We begin with Fox 45's Amy Simpson. She's live after questioning the mayor about the new poll numbers. Amy?
Yes, Mary, Kai, just about 6 months to go until voters head to the polls here in Maryland, and some newly obtained polling numbers point to incumbent Mayor Brandon Scott in second place. Polling obtained by Fox 45 News for Baltimore City's Democratic primary finds Sheila Dixon in the lead for mayor. The poll, administered by Lake Research Partners in Washington, D.C., surveyed 800 likely voters in the 2024 Democratic primary for Baltimore mayor. Dixon polling at 39%, incumbent Brandon Scott with 31%, candidate Bob Wallace with 10%, and 15% of those polled undecided. But after those surveyed heard profiles of each of the candidates and statements on Scott's time in office, the poll shows the incumbent mayor trails Dixon by 14 points. Sir, a question about the Democratic primary for mayor. Today, Fox 45 questioning Mayor Brandon Scott about the numbers.
I've never been a person
an individual child shouldn't be stigmatized. How do we have information that is transparent about the systems working together? And I think that's where there's a bit of a gap that fell apart that we need to rebuild.
Not a direct answer from Ferguson. While they debate data, the frontline prosecutors on the ground seeing the impact of juvenile crime are clear about the reality of the crisis.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crime.
We all have the same sad song, no matter where we are in the state.
Some lawmakers are calling for more resources for the Department of Juvenile Services. For Clippinger, that may mean shuffling things around within the agency. Does resources equate to more funding?
I think that they certainly need to direct some of the resources they already get a little better.
With just over a month before session, there appears to be several ideas up in the air, but nothing finalized just yet. And it's really starting to come down to who will the lawmakers listen to when it comes to addressing the juvenile crime crisis, the prosecutors on the ground or DJS. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates has a message for parents of juveniles who commit crimes.
Then you just need to bring the family pack of the toothbrushes, because my administration will hold the entire family accountable.
Now, that warning comes as Bates announces charges for the parents of one of the teens involved in the triple shooting outside of Carver-Votech High School in October. And now Fox 45 News has confirmed the father charged in that assault turned shooting was on federal probation at the time it happened. Alexa Ashwell joins us live right now in studio with new details. Alexa?
Yes, Kai, I've been combing through pages and pages of federal and state court documents. Records show William Dredden was in fact on federal probation at the time of the Carver assault turned shooting. Court records show Dredden was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison after entering into a plea deal in a drug case back in 2019. According to court documents, Dredden was a member of an open-air drug market that operated in Southwest Baltimore and sold heroin, fentanyl, and cocaine. According to state records, Dredden has a long history of drug-related arrests, including possession and distribution, dating back to the early 2000s. In those cases, the majority of the sentences were suspended. According to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, Dredden was released in June 2022 and placed on 3 years supervised probation. Fast forward to now, Dredden is facing more than a dozen charges after the city state's attorney says he and Tiffany Harrison helped their son assault another teen outside Carver back in October.
Holding our parents accountable as well. And so for us, we are laser focused on holding these parents accountable, to tell the other parents to make the message clear. If you wish to participate in these types of illegal activities with your children, if you're not going to be a parent to your children, then we will hold you accountable as well.
Now, going back to Dredden's federal sentence, records show in 2020 a judge denied his request for early compassionate release. His reasoning is what we're focusing on. The judge stating the defendant remains a danger to the community, and in order to ensure his continued improvement and the safety of the Baltimore City residents, the defendant must remain incarcerated for the remainder of his sentence. Now, given this stance, we're asking why Dredden then was seemingly released early, given the listed date of his sentence. Dredden is now being held without bond. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. And that brings us to our question of the day. Based on your experience, do you think the juvenile crime crisis is out of control? We just opened this poll. To make your voice heard, go to our website, foxbaltimore.com/vote.
And we continue to follow amendments to a bill being pushed by the Baltimore County Council president that would strip power from the county's inspector general. If passed, the policies would limit the watchdog's funding, operation, and ability to release reports to the public. Those amendments include the creation of an advisory board made of 7 members, most of whom would be county officials. It would also require the inspector general to submit reports to that board for approval before they can be made public. The amendments would also cut back on the IG's subpoena powers, requiring the office to ask for documents it needs first, then wait 90 days for a response before issuing a subpoena itself. Inspector General Kelly Madigan is calling the proposed changes outrageous, arguing they would compromise the integrity of her office.
When you start to have different layers of oversight for the oversight entity, it kind of begins to become meaningless. We are supposed to be apolitical and follow the facts wherever they may lead. The reports are not going to be popular for necessarily elected officials.
Now, Councilman Julian Jones has been a subject of 2 Inspector General investigations. In one report, Madigan finding Jones inappropriately used his government email to solicit campaign donations. In the other, she cited Jones for misusing public dollars to repave a private road benefiting a Towson business owner and one of Jones's political donors. Jones denied those allegations. Fox 45 News has reached out to the councilman for an interview. We are expecting to sit down with him tomorrow. And that brings us to our second question of the day. Do you think the IG should be independent of Julian Jones and the county council? We just opened this poll. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Still ahead, some major budget cuts for the state's Department of Transportation, how this could directly impact you.
President Biden and former President Trump catching many off guard with recent comments about their presidential runs. I'm Atrel Nashar with a look at the strategies that might be behind it.
And we saw a few rain showers and snow flurries earlier on, but now we're back to dry weather and we're getting ready for warmer temperatures. I'll let you know how high the numbers get into the weekend in my Weather Authority forecast.
Former President Biden, and former President Trump getting candid on the campaign trail, not holding back on why they're running or what they do if reelected. National correspondent Atrel Nashar explains what they said and perhaps why they said it.
The field of Republican presidential candidates trying to gain any support they can during a debate in Tuscaloosa. But the two candidates likely to headline the general election are dominating the headlines, and for reasons their respective campaigns probably aren't too happy about. It started Tuesday afternoon when, during a campaign reception in Massachusetts, President Biden said, "Folks, this is a big deal, this election. We've got to get it done, not because of me, and I mean that. If Trump wasn't running, I'm not sure I'd be running, but we cannot let him win for the sake of the country." Hours later,
no, not now.
Many pundits were shocked he'd be so candid about his motivation to run. George Washington University's Dr. Todd Belt believes it was strategic. At a time when the president's approval ratings are low and show he's losing support of key groups like young voters and people of color.
He really thinks that when it comes down to a binary choice between himself and Donald Trump, that he's going to win, and that the prospect of what Donald Trump's second term might look like is enough to scare people over to the Biden side.
That same night, during a Fox News town hall,
under no circumstances you are promising America tonight you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
for?
he's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border and I want to drill. He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said, no, other than day one.
Belt says there's a strategy here too.
Donald Trump knows that the outrage stimulates coverage, and it helps him to frame what that coverage will be.
Now the question is, can Trump's primary opponent sway public reaction to comments like that in their favor? They don't have much time to do it and chip away at Trump's dominating lead with less than 6 weeks before the Iowa caucuses. On Capitol Hill, I'm Atrel Nashar.
We are in for a nice and much drier night. Of course, we had those snow showers and a few flurries across parts of the state. We have rain showers and a few flurries, but now back to mostly cloudy skies. 42 for the current temperature, but it feels more like it's in the mid-30s as we deal with lower wind chills and also breezy conditions. Winds are out of the northwest, and so we do have that little bit of a breeze adding to that chill factor. Around the state, temperature is mainly in the low 40s. It is much cooler than average for this time of year, but we have a nice and almost spring-like warm-up coming this weekend. You'll notice that a lot of the snow showers that we see are in parts of Pennsylvania and into New York. We had some of that linger into our region, but now we're mostly dry and mostly cloudy. We're going to stay that way overnight. Our temperatures will fall to the upper 20s and low 30s. You'll want the layers tomorrow morning. Then for the afternoon, another chilly day as high temperatures stay below average in the upper 40s. We'll jump to the upper 50s on Friday. And then for Saturday, once again, the upper 50s. But Sunday will bring temperatures reaching the 60s. Notice on the future scan, we start tomorrow morning with mostly cloudy skies and dry weather. However, throughout the afternoon, the chance for a few very, very isolated showers. Then we stay dry overnight and into Friday. By the afternoon, a mix of sunshine and clouds, but notice those temperatures in the upper 50s and possibly even the low 60s for some areas. We'll stay mostly dry through the rest of the week, but on Sunday, we have the chance for numerous showers across the state. And of course, with temperatures in the 60s, no chance of winter weather. Starting off the upcoming work week, though, we're looking at a dry forecast. 31 for the low tonight with a few passing clouds. Then tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies and temperatures below average. We're talking highs around 48. Then as we move forward, we've got that nice warm up as we rise to above average numbers. 57 on Friday and Saturday, then 63 on Sunday with rainy and breezy conditions. We'll only be around 50 on Monday and Tuesday, then a slight rise in temperatures, but still the low 50s on Wednesday. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Still ahead tonight, City State's Attorney Ivan Bates doubling down on holding the parents of juvenile offenders accountable. We take a closer look at how this could be playing out going forward.
I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington. Coming up, hear Jewish students share the experiences with anti-Semitism on college campuses.
Now to the latest on the war in Israel. The Israeli Defense Force is reporting finding a massive weapons cache near a school in Gaza. The discovery comes as the IDF expands its ground operations throughout the territory. The IDF says the weapons include hundreds of missiles, RPG launchers, and unmanned drones. Meantime, we're getting an update on some of the youngest children evacuated from Gaza. The premature babies rescued from Gaza's largest hospital are now being cared for by doctors in Cairo. Doctors say most of them are doing well, but reuniting them with their families is going to be difficult. Heavy fighting across the Gaza Strip is stopping most humanitarian aid deliveries. The United Nations says aid distribution is only possible around Gaza's southern border with Egypt due to road closures and safety concerns. Palestinian health officials say right now it's hard to determine exactly how many are dead, but the number is now believed to be well over 15,000. Jewish college students share their firsthand accounts of anti-Semitism on campus with lawmakers. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has those stories from Capitol Hill.
Jewish students at top American universities report a dramatic shift in campus culture.
To such an extreme of intolerance that 70% of MIT's Jewish students polled feel forced to hide their identities.
MIT graduate student Talia Khan sharing her experience with lawmakers on Capitol Hill.
I was forced to leave my study group for my doctoral exams halfway through the semester because my group members told me that the people at the Nova Music Festival deserved to die because they were partying on stolen land.
Reports of anti-Semitism spiking at NYU as well.
Today, in 2023, at NYU, I hear calls to gas the Jews, and I am told that Hitler was right. Being a Jew at NYU has meant being physically assaulted in NYU's library by a fellow student while I was wearing an American-Israeli flag.
Anti-Semitism also an issue at UPenn.
A Jewish student accosted, "Jews are Nazis," etched adjacent to Penn's Jewish fraternity house. Why doesn't the university hold the perpetrators of such acts accountable?
Critics comparing Harvard President Claudine Gay's passionate fight against African-American racism to her current approach to anti-Semitism. In 2020, Gay wrote about the need to work against the old hatreds and the enduring legacies of anti-Black racism with a new sense of urgency. During Tuesday's hearing, she gave this response to current Jewish hate on campus.
Calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard Code of Conduct, correct?
Again, it depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context.
Harvard has taken down Gay's 2020 statement on George Floyd's death.
This week's congressional testimony by the presidents of Harvard, UPenn, and MIT only ramped up calls for them to resign. The charge is being led by hedge fund billionaire and Harvard graduate Bill Ackman. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
And that brings us to our national question of the day. Do you think the presidents of Harvard, UPenn, and MIT should resign over their handling of anti-Semitic protests on their campuses? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Pulse tab. Coming up after the break, Fox 45 News learning new information about massive proposed transportation cuts that will affect how Marylanders get to work, school, and events. The breakdown next. Plus, new technology in the fight to combat car thefts in Baltimore, the new security measures being offered.
We're continuing to follow that latest on the University of Nevada, Las Vegas shooting. This is a live look near the scene. Police preparing to give an update to the situation. Now, they have confirmed the suspect in that shooting is dead. Reports are saying shots were fired at the business school and the nearby student union. Multiple people are hurt, but authorities have not given an exact number.
That's right. Las Vegas police confirmed shooter's death in a tweet just minutes before we came on the air today at 4. They say the shooting still under investigation. The crime scene is large, and they're telling local people who live in the area to avoid the campus during the ongoing response. Students leaving the scene say they heard the gunshots.
We were in the student union on the second floor, and we heard at the business building, the BEH on the second floor, there was an active shooter. We found out cops were on site, and we just sheltered in place until we were evacuated, and it took about maybe 30 minutes to get us evacuated.
This is a developing story. We'll be sure to bring you that press conference as soon as it starts. You can also follow the breaking news at foxbaltimore.com.
If you're a parent or guardian and you're participating or complicit in violence being perpetrated in Baltimore, then you just need to bring the family pack of the toothbrushes. Because my administration will hold the entire family accountable.
A stern warning from Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates as he announces charges in the triple shooting outside of Carver High School in October. Bates doubling down that his office will be holding parents accountable for crimes committed by their children.
And tonight, there are growing questions on how these kinds of charges could play out in the future.
Defense attorney for EN Lawyers, Jeremy Eldridge, joining us live tonight to weigh in on this. Jeremy, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Do you think Ivan Bates will be successful in holding parents legally accountable?
There is definitely a legal framework that is available to hold parents accountable. It already exists within the juvenile justice system. For instance, parents can be held accountable for $10,000 in restitution for acts that their child committed. What we're talking about on an adult level, however, is being part of a conspiracy. In fact, in October of last year, very famously, we saw Ethan Crumley, who allegedly committed a mass shooting in Michigan. Both of his parents, ignoring his mental health needs, purchasing him a firearm, were charged with manslaughter in that very same scenario. So there is 100% a legal theory to support the charging of parents for the conduct of children that they propelled.
Now, Jeremy, as you probably know, the parents in this particular case are facing charges because they were allegedly at the scene and played a role at that shooting outside of Carver. But our question is, do you think Mr. Bates will be able to charge parents who may not be involved? They're not there at the scene, but they're aware of what their kids are doing.
Kai, I think you made the point for me, which is whether they have a role or not and what that role was. Simply being aware or present during a crime, we actually have a jury instruction that says mere presence isn't enough. But if you're a parent and you play some role in pushing that conduct forward or supporting that conduct, driving someone to the scene, hiding them afterwards, contributing to how that individual gets a weapon to the school or purchasing it for them, that role makes you what's called a principal in the second degree, which is just as responsible as the individual who committed the crime in the first place, or what may commonly be known as a co-conspirator.
I think people are somewhat desperate at this point with the juvenile crime wave that we have been seeing. They want somebody to be held accountable. Parents a lot of times don't know where their kids are. What effect do you think that Bates' stern message from his office will have overall?
Well, there are two messages that are being sent out here. One message hopefully doesn't fall on deaf ears, and that's to juveniles who are committing a lot of the crimes, who probably don't watch the news. And that deterrent will speak volumes whether kids hear about it at school. Are they seeing people they know held accountable, seeing other kids held accountable? The larger message, which is what this moment is for, is to touch parents, is to say, if you are not going to be responsible for your child, then I will, and you may not like how I do. And unfortunately, that seems to be the moment that we're in Baltimore City and beyond in the state of Maryland.
Yeah, that's what the victim, Mrs. Talent, said recently.
Exactly.
She felt if the kids weren't going to be held accountable, she was suggesting to lawmakers and police hold the parents accountable. Jeremy, thank you.
That is what we have courts for.
Yeah, it's what they're for. All right. Jeremy Eldridge with EN Lawyers. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We have new information tonight about a massive budget shortfall for the Maryland Department of Transportation.
That's right. The funding gap means projects will likely be put on pause. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live to break down what's going on and what will be affected. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary Kai, there's a lot. We're looking at approximately a $2 billion shortfall right now. And these proposals coming from the Maryland Department of Transportation within Governor Westmore's administration really stemming from a rise in costs and dwindling revenue. Some of these projects and proposals are, again, just that, just proposals. But here's a breakdown at what MDOT is really putting out there right now. The Maryland Transit Administration will likely have a $652 million less for project maintenance. That means there will likely be a delay in replacing some buses, light rail, and metro cars. MDOT's also proposing cutting $1.5 billion from highway expansion projects. There's a possibility of raising the prices for parking at BWI. The MVA will likely have to suspend operations on Saturdays and raise some prices. MTA commuter buses will be cut. The MARC train lines will be limited, some of them. And the Highway Administration will have to limit trash and litter pickup. The reality is that the money just isn't there. And we're talking to some lawmakers, co-chair of the Maryland Transit Caucus, and he describes these proposed cuts as really tough blows across the board.
Without having a really serious conversation about readjusting revenue and necessary resources going forward, it's going to be really hard to, to be able to restore some of the things that have been taken out. If you're reliant on certain types of transportation that's been cut, some of the transit pieces, you're going to be scrambling.
Now, the news of these cuts really came as somewhat of a surprise to some lawmakers, including Senator Cory McCray from Baltimore City. He's a member of the Transit Caucus as well. He sent a letter just today to MDOT's secretary, really criticizing what he calls as a lack of communication in this entire process. It's a lengthy 2-page letter. The senator also criticizing some of the proposed cuts. Here's another section of what Cory McCray is saying to the secretary of MDOT, saying, quote, "Had I heard from your office, it might have allowed me to better understand your thoughts or lack thereof behind this particular distribution of cuts." Now, the senator also says he's concerned about these proposals really pitting regions against each other, and he says that the proposed cuts right now could severely impact Baltimore City. Mary?
So, Mackenzie, is Governor Moore saying anything about this proposal?
Not right now. It's radio silence from the governor's office. I reached out earlier today asking for a statement. They told me I would get a statement from MDOT. I'm still waiting for that statement. I'll keep you updated if I get it. But we do know that as of right now, the Red Line project in Baltimore City, we know that is a hot topic here. The plans are supposed to be safe for now, but we know that this is going to be something that lawmakers will really have to debate and work through when the legislative session begins in January. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
All right, Mackenzie, thank you. And we're going to go back to that breaking news right now. Las Vegas police are holding a news conference on that shooting that happened at UNLV. This, of course, looks like a newscast happening right now. So there's a station in Las Vegas. This is our station there. But there is also a news conference taking place right now. Let's dip in and listen here for a second.
They will provide us with another update as soon as we get that. We'll be sure to bring those to you on air, online. But LaToya, Dana, that's the very latest. We'll send it back to you.
Andrew, thank you for all that you do. We also learned that they have a number that they want folks to call as well. That is 702-455-AIDE. Again, that's 702-455-AIDE. And of course, as a reunification is starting to happen, a lot of sighs of relief here. But we also know that multiple people have been injured. And in fact, some of them may, in fact, be deceased. And so certainly sobering, heartbreaking day. Hearts are heavy in our community as we continue to learn more about this at this hour. But the good news here is they're telling us there's no further threat. But out of an abundance of confidence, they have decided to shut down all statewide campuses just in case. But again, no further threat at this time. Let's go ahead and check in with our Kelly Curran. She is in Sky 3. Kelly, what can you tell us?
All right, so actually we're checking out what's going on right now on I-15, and as you guys have been talking about, I-15 northbound is closed from Blue Diamond up through about Charleston. So I want to take a look at what we're seeing here. So unfortunately, there's a lot of cars here who got trapped in the closure, and they're not letting them move. I don't know if these cars, I'm assuming they've been sitting here since about 12:30, so they've been sitting there a while. Hopefully they're going to let them get off at Tropicana here soon, because these cars, like I said, they got nowhere to go. Behind this, you can see there's nobody, and that is because it's closed back toward Blue Diamond. Now, the southbound side is open, but traffic is very, very light. I'm assuming that most of the community is probably at home watching the news right now and grieving what's happened in our community. So it's probably the reason why the traffic is so light, because by this time we should see heavy traffic on 15, at least on the southbound side. Again, we're going to keep an eye on these people on the northbound side of I-15 and hope that they can get out of there quickly. We also have reports of Tropicana being closed. Oh, yeah, sure looks like it. Let me get over here. Yep, that looks like Tropicana's closed here at the north end of the airport. Also closures, Maryland Parkway, University Center, we've got closures, and Charleston at Shadow Lane, so right in front of UMC. We also have a closure there. So again, this is something we're going to continue to monitor here. Hopefully we can get these people off the 15 that are stuck. But if you're getting ready to head out the door anytime soon, I-15 is not the place to be, especially on the northbound side. Like I said, southbound is still open, at least for now.
All right, Kelly, thank you for the bird's eye view from the only news helicopter in the entire state of Nevada. That's Sky 3. We are getting an update from UMC. Scott Krebs there saying that they have not received any patients from this shooting at UMC. They're the only level 1 trauma center here in southern Nevada. Right now, they're taking all of the injured, we believe, to Sunrise Hospital, which is the closest hospital to the UNLV campus. And we're expecting another update from Metro Police. We just received one from the sheriff, Karen McMahill, moments ago. Next update from police will be at 5 p.m. But we still have a lot of questions, including how many people are injured and what their injuries are.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we do know that some of those injured are at Sunrise. At least that's what we believe right now from the police presence there. We do have Kristen Drummond on scene. Kristen, any updates?
At this point, no new updates. I have reached out to a spokesperson from Sunrise Hospital to ask how many people are injured, what are their conditions at this time, but no response. But what we do know is that Metro Police have...
All right, and that was, of course, our station in Las Vegas, and Kristen Drummond reporting there right now. People are being taken to the hospital, but they're still gathering information right now. Police are still working this active investigation.
That's right. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Making headlines, Maryland Congressman Kwesi Mfume announces $1.3 million for eco-friendly community development projects in Baltimore. The Green and Healthy Homes Initiative will receive $750,000 to renovate 75 homes in Baltimore to improve energy efficiency and health outcomes. The Gwynns Falls Business and Homeowners Association will use $535,000 to transform 6 vacant lots into a community park in Southwest Baltimore.
Now you will have an opportunity to see a park and parkland go up in that area where children can play, where organizations can meet, where residents can walk is significant. It does away with that blight, and from an environmental perspective, always believe that parks are better than gravel and sand and dirt that just sits there and finds itself the home of debris.
Well, leaders for the organization hope these developments help to revitalize these parts of Baltimore and provide more community activities for children. State and city officials announced the installation of license plate reader technology in an effort to fight ongoing crime across Baltimore. Those readers will be used to provide real-time data to help the Baltimore City Police Department catch carjackers, robbers, and other criminal suspects in the South Baltimore area of Locust Point and also Riverside.
We're looking at technology. Oftentimes what people don't realize is how we're moving in a different way in which jurors want to receive information. And so one of the things also, the technology that the police are now going to be able to use allows us to have the probable cause oftentimes to have those stops, to get the guns out of the vehicles, to make sure that at this moment in time a vehicle is potentially stolen, that we now with this technology allow the police to do their job. And it's just an additional tool within the toolbox.
Well, the installation is a result of several community organizations coming together. They won a grant to support the police department. Charitable leaders celebrate the opening of the region's first Light the World giving machine. The vending machine works in reverse by giving users an opportunity to donate a variety of much-needed items for local and global charities. It will be open in the Columbia Mall today through the 17th of December. Leaders say the opportunity highlights the good the organizations are doing to help those in Maryland and across the country.
I want to thank you as well for lowering the barriers to giving. Each of us has work to do to make sure that we're creating communities where every one of our neighbors and friends can thrive and live up to their God-given potential.
Well, the giving machine has traveled from Philadelphia to Columbia and then will go to Richmond, Virginia. Gordon Ramsay welcomes 9 young guests to compete in the new show MasterChef Junior Home for the holidays. Now, this show is nationwide, attracting contestants from around the country, and 2 out of the 9 contestants are from Maryland. Well, today on Fox 45 Morning News, they joined us live to talk about their experience and brought in some tasty treats as well.
What I have today is diligencon. It's basically a rice made out of dry black mushrooms with Haitian spices and lima beans. And then here is griot, which is a pork shoulder marinated in spices, which is then boiled and fried. And then we have this here, which is a pickles. It's basically vegetables that have different spices, and it's basically kind of like pickled. It's very tangy and it's very spicy.
This kid could have
and infused with habanero.
He could have his own restaurant.
Sunday, by the way, MasterChef Junior in the past has been really popular, but it airs this Sunday and Monday right here on Fox 45. Well, the Ravens are getting into the holiday spirit. Tight end Isaiah Likely visited the children at the Boys and Girls Club in Baltimore. They were able to make arts and crafts and even have a party.
It means the world. I mean, being a young kid in their shoes, I always wanted, like, when the people I grew up with come back, show love. So just being able to come to a community that loves me, show love to them means the world to me.
All right, the Ravens take on the LA Rams right here in Baltimore this Sunday, December 10th. And if you can't make it to M&T Bank Stadium, be sure to watch that game right here on Fox 45. Pre-game starts at noon. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. What kind of weather do you imagine they'll have, Jasmine, for the game?
Well, hopefully it'll be a little bit better. I know here we are getting ready for rain this weekend, so unfortunately a little bit of a gloomy forecast. But over the next few days, you can expect a rising trend. 42 for the current temperature, and a great look at M&T Bank Stadium. We've got mostly cloudy skies and breezy conditions with winds out of the west-northwest around 10 miles per hour. Around the rest of the state, temperatures in the upper 30s, the low 40s, and this is well below average for this time of year. It was even cold enough for us to have a few rain showers and even a few flurries mixed in with that. But now we're back to mostly dry weather across our state. Now, as we look north, we see a few areas of snow across parts of Pennsylvania and into New York. That's going to stay well away from us, and with our warming temperatures, no sign of snow over the next few days. Overnight, our temperatures will drop to the upper 20s, low 30s. You'll be waking up to freezing conditions. Make sure that you give your car some extra time to heat up in the morning. By the afternoon, highs reach the upper 40s and possibly the low 50s for some, but we are looking at a return to the 50s on Friday. We'll start tomorrow morning with mostly cloudy skies. Then for the afternoon, a very slight chance for a few stray showers. Most of us, though, staying dry and cloudy. We'll wake up to partly cloudy skies on Friday. We'll have a little more sunshine by the afternoon, and notice those temperatures, upper 50s and low 60s, so well above average for this time of year. We'll also stay dry on Saturday, but Sunday brings that chance for rain across much of the state. Then into the work week, we're staying nice and dry. So tonight, temperatures drop to 31 with a few passing clouds, then mostly cloudy and highs around 48 tomorrow. As we move forward, we are looking at the 50s on Friday and Saturday, 63 with rainy and breezy conditions on Sunday, then back to the low 50s for the upcoming work week. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, the Baltimore County Inspector General says a series of changes could make her department useless. We hear her side of a power struggle happening right now. Holiday shopping may have never been easier, but keeping your own data private while shopping online, that can be a bit of a challenge. Consumer Reports has some advice. Well, these days, holiday shopping season means shopping online. Consumer watchdogs warn some merchants are also getting a hold of your personal data and selling it. Tom Rogers has the story.
Shopping for the holidays has never been easier. Just grab your phone and with a few clicks and some swipes, you can find the perfect presents for your loved ones. But Consumer Reports investigative reporter Brian Vines warns sometimes there is a trade-off for convenience.
If you have an account with an e-tailer, or if you use apps and sites that require logging in, some companies might keep files on you and even sell your information to data brokers, which are businesses that collect your personal data and sell it to other parties.
So what is the real danger in that?
The problem is you don't know what these companies are doing with your data. Some might have location data on you, which could hypothetically be used to see where you worship, where you protest, or who else you spend your time with.
But limiting the use of personal data and trying to take back control of it is not easy. It is often a manual process that is tedious, time-consuming, unless you use something called an authorized agent.
Several states have passed laws that allow consumers to designate a third party to make data requests on their behalf, like Incogni, Mine, Yorba, and even Consumer Reports.
Consumer Reports Permission Slip is a new free app that provides information on how more than 100 companies use your personal information and lets you request that they stop selling it or they delete it.
Companies typically have 45 days to respond to opt-out requests. Some take even longer.
With these new tools in hand, you and your data can feel a little safer shopping around this holiday season. Now, you probably only need to sign up for one privacy helper, but there's no real downside to using multiple services other than the subscription costs. Tom Rogers, Fox 45 News.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, a resolution to condemn the terrorist attack on Israel fails in Baltimore. Why one public policy expert says the explanation from the city council members who stopped it doesn't hold up. Will all these hearings in Annapolis lead to change? We press lawmakers for answers on the juvenile crime crisis. Yes. Lawmakers meet for a third time to discuss juvenile crime statewide. The questions that still remain as we press them on their next steps.
We are laser focused on holding these parents accountable.
Parents now charged in a triple shooting at a Baltimore City school. One has a long criminal history. Fox 45 News dives into court documents as city state's attorney calls for parent accountability.
The race for Baltimore mayor moves into high gear. The new poll causing concern for Mayor Scott's re-election campaign.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. We're following breaking news coming out of the University of Las Vegas, where a shooting has left multiple victims injured. And this is a live look at that scene. Police just provided an update on the shooting. We're told at 11:45 this morning, their time, which is West Coast time, police received the call alerting them to the active shooter on campus. They have confirmed the suspect in the shooting is dead, but they have not provided an update on how many victims are hurt in the shooting, but a number of people have been taken to local hospitals.
Now, all schools in the entire Nevada system of higher education have shut down campuses just out of an abundance of caution, but police say there is no longer a threat. Las Vegas police confirmed the shooter's death in a tweet. Around 4 o'clock, they say the shooting is still under investigation. They're telling people in the area to avoid the campus during their ongoing response and investigation. Students leaving the scene say they heard gunshots.
We were in the student union on the second floor, and we heard at the business building, the BEH on the second floor, there was an active shooter. We found out cops were on site, and we just sheltered in place until we were evacuated, and it took about maybe 30 minutes to get us evacuated.
And while the shooter is dead, the university is still telling students to continue to shelter in place. Some of the students, those students say they were allowed to be evacuated. This is a developing story, and we'll continue to follow it.
Why does the youth go into the system, come out the same day, sometimes several times in the same day, and how do we set boundaries around that?
Fox 45 News following the fallout from a third juvenile justice hearing in Annapolis. Lawmakers still struggling to come to a consensus about how to stop this year's spike in youth crime.
And as that hearing was happening, we learned another troop of young people were arrested in connection with carjackings over the weekend. Police say 4 teenagers, including 3 juveniles, were arrested for an armed carjacking in Towson. They say it happened around 7:30 Saturday morning near a Starbucks on Charles Street. Police tracked down the stolen car at Mondawmin Mall, where the 4 teens were arrested. Hours before that, police say a group of young people matching the description of the teens arrested in Towson tried to carjack a woman in Roland Park. Now, it's not clear if the same teens are responsible for both incidents. That's being investigated.
Well, tonight we have live team coverage on the juvenile crime crisis facing Maryland. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell has new details on one of the parents charged in a triple shooting at a Baltimore City school.
But we begin with Mackenzie Frost and word that leadership in Annapolis is ready to start drafting legislation addressing juvenile crime. Tell us what you know, Mackenzie.
Yeah, guys, so right now it seems as if it's a waiting game to see those concrete plans from Democratic leadership. But we are starting to see a growing consensus of bipartisan support and a push to get more transparency from within the Department of Juvenile Services. With 3 meetings down,
they just kind of cycle through the system.
Our imaginations need to be greater than that.
Third briefing of Maryland House Judiciary Committee.
The House Judiciary Committee has heard from prosecutors, police, the Department of Juvenile Services, diversion programs, and more.
We have the pieces from these 3 hearings to start to put together the legislation. And I think we'll be looking at issues related to probation, the length of time people are on probation, and a couple of the other issues.
But what those plans will be remains the unanswered question throughout this entire conversation.
Welcome, everyone.
In Baltimore City Wednesday morning,
I am truly thrilled in this moment.
We questioned Senate President Bill Ferguson about he and other lawmakers will answer that big question.
So we'll be releasing stuff before, at the beginning of session.
One thing garnering support from both sides of the political aisle, at least in the House, accurate data about juvenile crime, especially when Secretary of DJS Vincent Schiraldi touts declining data.
I know that that's hard for people to swallow if they're one of the people whose cars that were stolen, but I don't think that's typical of what's happened with kids under 13. And I think the data shows that the kids under 13 are actually doing better now than they were before the law changed.
There are some questions as to, how much juvenile crime do we have? depending on who you talk to, you have a lot of different ways of looking at it.
The Department of Juvenile Services says juvenile crime is down 66%. That is absolutely false. It might be down from their point of view, but it doesn't mean the real legitimate juvenile crime is happening.
We took that issue to the Senate president. How do you plan to address the concerns when it comes to transparency from within DJS?
Look, it's really tough. These are kids. And so the data about an individual child is private and should be private, just like we do for the school system. An individual child shouldn't be stigmatized. How do we have information that is transparent about the systems working together? And I think that's where there's a bit of a gap that fell apart that we need to rebuild.
Not a direct answer from Ferguson. While they debate data, the frontline prosecutors on the ground seeing the impact of juvenile crime are clear about the reality of the crisis.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crime.
We all have the same sad song, no matter where we are in the state.
Some lawmakers are calling for more resources for the Department of Juvenile Services. For Clippinger, that may mean shuffling things around within the agency. Does resources equate to more funding?
I think that they certainly need to direct some of the resources they already get a little better.
With just over a month before session, there appears to be several ideas up in the air, but nothing finalized just yet. And the reality is right now lawmakers will have to decide who they want to listen to when it comes to addressing the juvenile crime crisis, the prosecutors on the ground or DJS. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. When asked about his plans to address the juvenile crime crisis, Governor Moore told Fox 45 News the law needs to be re-examined, but he hasn't offered any concrete solutions. However, the governor is standing by Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi, calling him, again, a reformer.
We're clear that when we came into office, we walked into a DJS that was understaffed and underfunded. And it's the reason why I appointed a true reformer.
Schiraldi defended the state's juvenile crime laws in a conversation with Mackenzie Frost this past spring. He believes young people shouldn't be exposed to the adult prison system until they turn 25. Some lawmakers and police leaders criticize Schiraldi, saying those policies, in their estimation, will make Maryland less safe.
You're basically saying up until the age of 25, which is what he wants to do, you get a free ride.
Unfortunately, legislators, lawmakers, have decided that it's better to support the lawbreakers rather than those who are enforcing the law.
Well, Schiraldi also supports ending probation and parole for offenders of any age.
Meanwhile, City State's Attorney Ivan Bates issuing a warning to parents in Baltimore. Yesterday, he announced charges for 2 parents accused of taking part in a fight between kids that ended with 3 teens being shot.
And now Fox 45 News has confirmed the father charged in that assault turned shooting was on federal probation at the time of the incident.
Alexa Ashwell joins us live in studio with new details. Alexa?
Yes, Sky Mary, I've been combing through pages and pages of federal and state court documents. Records show William Dredden was, in fact, on federal probation at the time of the Carver assault turned shooting. Court records show Dredden was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison after entering into a plea deal in a drug case back in 2019. According to court records, Dredden was a member of an open-air drug market that operated in southwest Baltimore and sold heroin, fentanyl, and cocaine. According to state records, Dredden has a long history of drug-related arrests, including possession and distribution, dating back to the early 2000s. In those cases, the majority of the sentences were suspended. According to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, Dredden was released in June 2022 and placed on 3 years supervised probation. Fast forward to now, Dredden is facing more than a dozen charges after the city state's attorney says he and Tiffany Harrison helped their son assault a teen outside Carver back in October.
Holding our parents accountable as well. And so for us, we are laser focused on holding these parents accountable, to tell the other parents to make the message clear. If you wish to participate in these types of illegal activities with your children, if you're not going to be a parent to your children, then we will hold you accountable as well.
Now, going back to Dredden's federal sentence, court records show in 2020 a judge denied his request for early compassionate release. Given this stance, we're asking why Dredden was seemingly released early, given his listed date of his sentence. Dredden is now being held without bond. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. And that brings us to our question of the day. Based on your experience, do you think the juvenile crime crisis is out of control? So far, 97% of you say yes. Of those who voted, you can make your voice heard by going to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Coming up tonight at 5:30, we will speak with Peace spokesperson Yuripsi Morgan on the questions that still remain following yesterday's juvenile crime hearing and Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates' decision to prosecute parents in the Carver shooting.
Right now, I think that the mayor should be concerned about these numbers.
Heats up tonight. Newly obtained poll numbers in the Democratic primary show former Mayor Sheila Dixon is the preferred candidate for Baltimore City voters. Fox 45's Amy Simpson joins us live after she questioned Mayor Brandon Scott about those poll numbers today. Amy?
Yes, Kai, so just about 6 months to go until voters head to the polls, and some new polling data that we obtained here at Fox 45 reveals that Brandon Scott may be in second place right now. Now, this poll was conducted by Lake Research Partners in Washington, D.C. They surveyed 800 likely voters in the 2024 Democratic primary for Baltimore mayor. Dixon polling at 39%, incumbent Brandon Scott with 31%, candidate Bob Wallace with 10%, and 15% of those polled undecided. But after those surveyed heard profiles of each of the candidates and statements on Scott's time in office, the poll shows that gap between the candidates actually widens, with Mayor Scott trailing Sheila Dixon by 14 points. Today at City Hall, though, the mayor dismissed these numbers.
I've never been a person that believed in polls. There's only one poll that matters, and that's Election Day. If we follow polls, right, the last time we had this election, I was polling at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. And what happened on Election Day. And also, what I would also say that polls that are given and done by people who have an agenda are always going to show what they wanted to show.
Well, love to say the only poll I care about is the poll that's on Election Day. I've never heard a winning candidate say that in my life.
And primary election day set for May 14th here in Maryland. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. Now, a Goucher poll released back in October also showed Dixon with the lead over current Mayor Scott. In that poll, she had 39% of voter support compared to 27% for Mayor Scott. 23% of people would vote or support another candidate. Now, following the poll's release, we asked our viewers who they would vote for in a hypothetical mayoral primary. 92% of those who responded say Sheila Dixon.
Fox 45 News is your headquarters for 2024 election coverage as state and local races start to heat up. You can find all of our election coverage online right now at foxbaltimore.com. The Baltimore City State's Attorney sending a message to parents: you cannot let your children be on the streets when you don't know where they are. The impact his decision to charge 2 parents could have on the youth crime crisis.
Is more money going to the border? The renewed calls for enhanced security and migrants continue to cross illegally.
4 Baltimore City Council members shot down a resolution supporting Israel. Why? One local policy expert is taking issue with their explanation for not agreeing to the plan.
And we had a few rain showers and snow flurries, but now we're back to dry weather. I'll let you know when to expect the next chance for rain coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News continues our coverage in the war in the Middle East. Israel's Air Force has struck about 250 Hamas targets in Gaza over the past 24 hours. It comes as troops continue to locate the terrorist group's weapons, underground shafts, explosives, and military infrastructure. There have been reports of high numbers of casualties after the IDF launched strikes on targets in and around a refugee camp in northern Gaza. In the south, IDF officials say they are encircling the territory's second largest city. Officials believe 2 Hamas leaders are hiding somewhere in the city.
Members of the Baltimore City Council are butting heads over a resolution supporting Israel. Some say it's a no-brainer, but 4 members abstained, stopping the resolution in its tracks. This morning, Fox 45's Patrice Sanders talked with a policy expert on why the resolution failed.
A resolution put forward by City Councilman Isaac Yitzi Schleifer in support of Israel and condemning Hamas failed in the council. 4 members voted no. They're now being called the shameful 4. Now, in response to the backlash, Ryan Dorsey, Odette Ramos, Felicia Porter, and Christopher Burnett, who all voted no, released a statement saying, "We unequivocally condemn the actions of Hamas." It goes on to say, "It is essential to emphasize that our condemnation of Hamas should not be misconstrued as a lack of support for the Palestinian people." Stephen J.K. Walters is the chief economist at the Maryland Public Policy Institute, and he says that's not enough.
No, it's not satisfactory. They had a chance to condemn Hamas and they didn't do it. And then after the fact, sort of Tuesday morning quarterbacking, I guess you could call it. It's like, well, yeah, we kind of, we have to say something about that, but they had a chance to say it. 9 of their colleagues had no difficulty whatsoever saying it, and they did. And I think it reflects a little bit of the political culture that is afflicting the city, that this is an extremist view. This is kind of a radical view. You want to complicate what happened on October the 7th by bringing in the history of everything that ever happened in the Middle East and so forth, and that just wasn't relevant.
He also points out that this resolution mirrored an exact resolution that was passed unanimously back in 2019 and says this should have been an easy call. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
Councilman Yitzi Schleifer joined us on Fox 45 News at 4 yesterday to express his frustration with those who abstained because they feel the bill was proposed without meaningful conversation.
I don't really feel that there needs to be meaningful conversation to condemn terrorism and anti-Semitism. That should be something that any of us can condemn instantly. This sends a message to anti-Semites in Baltimore that their city government is okay with them targeting Jews.
City Council President Nick Mosby addressed the vote, saying he supported the resolution to condemn the Hamas attack and anti-Semitism around the world. He says terrorism is never justified and ignorance is the enemy, whether that's in the Middle East or the middle of East Baltimore.
The Baltimore City Police Union among the groups frustrated with the decision. The group says it stands with Israel, condemns anti-Semitism, and is praying for the safe return of the hostages still in Hamas custody.
It has been a little bit of a cloudy day, but also very cold. Temperatures stayed well below average, and still, it is pretty chilly for this time of year. 40 for the current temperature, but when we factor in the winds, it feels like it's 36 degrees. So if you're going anywhere this evening or tonight, you will want the layers. Around the state, we're seeing temperatures in the 30s and 40s, and we're back to mostly dry weather. That's following a few rain showers and a couple of flurries across the state earlier. Not much to see now around our state, but to our north, we do have some areas of snow across parts of Pennsylvania and into New York. That's going to stay well away from us, and with warmer temperatures over the next few days, no sign of winter precipitation for our area. Temperatures tonight will drop to the 20s and the 30s, with many waking up to below freezing temperatures. By the afternoon, highs will reach the upper 40s and even the low 50s in some spots. So a little bit higher than the temperatures we had today, but again, below average for this time of year. We'll wake up to mostly cloudy skies. Then by the afternoon, we'll stay mostly cloudy, but there's the chance for a couple of very stray showers. Overnight, expect clearing skies. We'll wake up to a mix of sunshine and clouds on Friday morning. Then by the afternoon, plenty of sunshine and a big difference in those temperatures as we reach the upper 50s and getting very close to the low 60s. We'll be around those temperatures once again on Saturday for a nice end to the week. But it's Sunday when the next weather maker moves in, bringing showers to the state. After that, we're back to dry weather for Monday, and we stay mostly dry throughout the work week. Tonight, our temperatures fall to 31 with a few partly cloudy skies. Then tomorrow, 48 for the high temperature with mostly cloudy skies. We'll see more sunshine on Friday and again on Saturday, along with those warmer temperatures. 57 on Friday and Saturday, 63 on Sunday, but unfortunately rain throughout much of the day. After that, expect a big cool down, 50 on Monday and Tuesday, 51 on Wednesday. Back to you.
Jasmine, thanks. Massive transportation cuts on the way. Hearing from a state lawmaker about what this means for key projects and how it could impact you.
I'm Christine Frizzau on Capitol Hill, where lawmakers say changes at the southern border are needed now, yet still don't quite agree on what that means.
Tonight, new pictures showing migrants from every corner of the globe arriving at the southern border. The crowds even shutting down some entry points. What changes to make it the border still remains an issue front and center on Capitol Hill. National correspondent Christine Frizzau has the story.
This is what it looks like when a rural Arizona port of entry shuts down. Hundreds of adult men, largely from Africa, waiting as local leaders beg the federal government for help.
This is a bad decision that impacts our border security. It hurts our economy.
The situation in Lukeville, Arizona, one in a long line of dire concerns at the southern border. In San Diego County, a long line of Chinese migrants. Critics say are coming because they've gotten the message too, that if they ask for asylum, they'll get in, even though the vast majority of them don't actually qualify under current law.
Crime, hunger, poverty, looking for a job are no reasons, but they are able to come in.
It's one reason why many lawmakers in Washington say they're tying border security to a bill which provides aid for Ukraine and Israel.
If you want us to get involved with how we're helping out other countries, a lot of Americans are saying you've got to do our country right first.
Democrats say the Republican plan is too extreme and should include additional pathways for immigrants to work here.
With over 9.5 million jobs open right now in America,
Our farmers, hospitals, and small business owners desperately need immigrants to meet their workforce needs.
President Biden's proposal does include far more funding to hire thousands more Border Patrol agents, as well as immigration attorneys and judges.
We've presented proposals that address the situation, that provide real practical solutions, and also do not do violence to our fundamental values.
Senator Mitt Romney calling Democrats clueless, posting on X, Dems want $106 billion, GOP wants a closed border. That's the trade. The debate over how to secure the border has been going on for decades, but in recent weeks, the issue has moved to the top of the priority list as cities and towns, both close to and far away from the border, struggle with the crisis. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
The Baltimore County Inspector General says proposed changes to her department would make it meaningless. Why the government watchdog is pushing back. The Baltimore City State's attorney says parents will be held accountable. The impact new charges could have on the youth crime crisis.
Tonight, we're following breaking news coming out of the University of Las Vegas, where a shooting has left multiple victims injured. This is a live look at the scene right now. Authorities are saying at least 3 people were hurt in the shooting, but they haven't confirmed the extent of those injuries or the total number of victims. Police are also reporting that the shooter was found dead, during the investigation.
That's right. All schools in the entire Nevada system of higher education have shut down campuses just out of an abundance of caution, but police say there is no longer a threat. Las Vegas police say the scene is still very active. They're asking people to avoid the campus during the ongoing response and investigation. Again, this is a developing story. We're going to bring you the latest as we learn more on air and online at foxbaltimore.com.
New information tonight about a massive budget shortfall for the Maryland Department of Transportation.
The funding gap means projects will likely be put on pause. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live to break down what's going on. Mackenzie?
Mary and Kai, there's a lot to unpack, but right now we're looking at a potential of at least a $2 billion budget shortfall. And this is coming from the Maryland Department of Transportation within Governor Westmore's administration. And according to this proposal, almost every area under MDOT's umbrella will likely see some cuts. Here's a breakdown of some of the top line numbers right now. The Maryland Transit Administration will likely have a $652 million less for project maintenance. That means there likely will be a delay in replacing some buses, light rail, and metro cars. MDOT is proposing cutting $1.5 billion from highway expansion projects. There's a possibility of raising the prices for parking at BWI. The MVA will likely have to suspend operations on Saturdays and raise some prices. MTA commuter buses will be cut. Some MARC train lines will be limited, and the Highway Administration will have to limit trash and litter pickup. Now, these plans right now are just proposals, and we're seeing the reality is that the money just simply isn't there for all of these plans and programs to move forward. We spoke with a delegate who's co-chair of the Maryland Transit Caucus in Annapolis, and he describes these as really tough cuts across the board.
Without having a really serious conversation about readjusting revenue and necessary resources going forward, it's going to be really hard to, to be able to restore some of the things that have been taken out. If you're reliant on certain types of transportation that's been cut, some of the transit pieces, you're going to be scrambling.
News of these cuts really came as a surprise to some lawmakers, including Senator Corey McCray, a Democrat from here in Baltimore City. Earlier today, he sent a new letter to the Secretary of MDOT, really criticizing some of the proposals as well as the communications overall. Here's part of the letter and some harsh words from the senator to the secretary. Senator McCray says, quote, "Had I heard from your office, it might have allowed me to better understand your thoughts or lack thereof behind this particular distribution of cuts." The senator also says that he believes that these proposals right now could pit regions against each other, and he says this really could be detrimental to Baltimore City.
And Mackenzie, is Governor Moore saying anything about this proposal?
Not right now. We're still waiting to get a statement. I asked the governor's office earlier today. They said that I would be getting a statement from MDOT. Still waiting to see that. But as we talk to lawmakers, they tell me that this will really be a negotiation and they're hoping for a conversation with the administration once the General Assembly session begins in January to really figure out a path forward to address some of these concerns. And no doubt this will be a major topic once session begins. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
If you're a parent or a guardian and you're participating or complicit in violence being perpetrated in Baltimore, then you just need to bring the family pack of the toothbrushes. Because my administration will hold the entire family accountable.
The Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office announcing more than 36 charges against a 15-year-old and his parents after a triple shooting at Carver High School in October.
According to charging documents, the father and mother drove their son to school and stood by as he pistol whipped another teen before helping him assault the teen.
Now, the charges coming as state lawmakers held another juvenile crime hearing just yesterday. Tonight, we're being joined by Peace spokesperson Yuripsi Morgan to weigh in on the juvenile crime crisis facing Maryland. Yuripsi, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Let's start off with City State's Attorney Bates's announcement. Do you think this is a wake-up call for parents?
Oh, it absolutely should be. When the state's attorney takes that kind of tone and he's telling parents, if you're going to perpetrate the crime with your children, alongside your children, and go ahead and bring the family pack of toothbrushes, that means that he is serious about enforcing the laws and he is serious about the parents' responsibility in bringing up their children.
And Ms. Morgan, do you think Mr. Bates will be able to successfully hold parents accountable? What kind of backlash could you possibly see this plan facing?
Well, I mean, we know that there's obviously potential for political backlash, but so far, thankfully, the state's attorney has been focused not on the politics, but on the safety of residents in Baltimore. And I can tell you from the times that I've spoken with residents who are frustrated with the crime, especially among young people in the city, I think there is a welcome to having this type of leadership that hasn't been seen anywhere else in the city, and particularly when it comes to young people. You know, people have been saying all across the city that we need help in dealing with some of these younger offenders who seem to be incapable of being controlled. And when the state's attorney is calling on parents in this manner and saying, look, there will be consequences if you don't hold up your end of raising these children, and especially if you help in the furtherance of crime, then that, I think, is welcome news to the people of Baltimore.
I want to ask you about yesterday's juvenile crime hearing. After hours of testimony across 3 hearings, we've learned legislative leaders are now ready to start putting together a legislative package. What are your hopes for what could be included in that? What do you think needs to change?
Listen, I think that I'm glad that they have at least expressed interest in changing some of these particularly bad laws. The juvenile justice reform package that was passed and that was pushed by Senator Jill Carter. And now that they've had ample time, 3 meetings at this point, to talk about the details, then I think that we can expect, or we should expect, some drastic change to those terrible laws that have made it so difficult to not only hold younger people accountable, but also be able to put them on the path that takes them out of danger.
All right, Euripsy Morgan with the group piece. Ms. Morgan, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
The Baltimore County Council chair is pushing amendments to a bill that would strip power from the county inspector general.
If passed, the policies would limit the watchdog's funding, operation, and ability to publicly publish reports.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor details the plan and the IG's reaction.
On a mission to weed out government waste, Baltimore County's Inspector General fearing the integrity of her office back on the chopping block this week.
So I am opposed to any amendments to these bills.
Back in 2021, following criticism from county leaders who attempted to restrict Madigan's authority to investigate fraud, the Blue Ribbon Commission was formed, a 7-member committee tasked with studying the office and ensuring best practices. Almost a year, 100,000 taxpayer dollars, and many meetings later, the committee releasing a comprehensive 100-page report listing 20 recommendations.
What is shocking to me is that in one fell swoop, those proposed amendments effectively undercut all of that public work and the $100,000.
Some of which were put into a bill supporting the IG's office long term. But on Tuesday, Council Chair Julian Jones blindsiding Madigan and the current administration with a list of last-minute amendments, once again threatening to strip the power of the IG's office. The amendments obstruct the IG's ability to pull internal documents during investigations by extending the amount of time the IG must wait to issue a subpoena to 90 days. An advisory board would also be created, made up of mostly county officials, requiring the IG to submit reports to the board for approval.
When you start to have different layers of oversight for the oversight entity, it kind of begins to become meaningless. We are supposed to be apolitical and follow the facts wherever they may lead. The reports are not going to be popular for necessarily elected officials.
Speaking of reports not always being popular, Jones has been the subject of 2 of your investigations. Do you think that that could have any connection to why he's proposing these amendments?
As to why he's proposing the amendments, that's a better question for Chairman Jones, but you are correct that he has been the subject of 2 separate Inspector General reports, and I stand by the work of those reports.
In one report, Madigan finding Jones inappropriately used his government email to solicit re-election donations. In another, she cited Jones for misusing public dollars to repave a private road, benefiting a Towson business owner and one of Jones's political donors.
I can't tell you how false that is.
Last November, Jones denying the allegations. Madigan now asking Baltimore County residents whose tax dollars she's trying to protect speak out in protest before the next vote on the proposed amendments takes place in 2 weeks.
So I would encourage them, what kind of watchdog do you want? Do you want a watchdog that has to report to an oversight board that consists of members of Baltimore County government of whom we have jurisdiction over? Or do you want someone who is going to follow the facts wherever they may lead and
follow the rules with no special treatment for anyone. And that's the job I intend to do.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Now, Madigan apparently wasn't the only one blindsided by the amendments. On Fox 45 Morning News yesterday, we spoke with Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski, who says he was too.
I completely understand the Inspector General's shock and surprise and outrage in this situation. Neither she nor this administration were made aware of these amendments. They were last second. We stand by our belief that the legislation that we put forward originally, that we thought was going to be adopted last night, is the right path forward for this office and for Baltimore County.
Fox 45 did reach out to Council President Jones for an interview yesterday, also sending him a list of questions. Today, he agreed to sit down with us tomorrow.
And that brings us to our second question of the day. Do you think the IG should be independent of Julian Jones and the County Council? So far, 100% of those who voted say yes. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
A Baltimore County substitute teacher says her reputation has been damaged, and it's all because the school system made a mistake it won't correct.
Jen Reedholm has been fighting to clear her name for 6 years. She tells Project Baltimore she wanted to substitute at Warren Elementary in Cockeysville, but never received any opportunities. Not understanding why, she started asking questions and learned her name was on a do not use list. According to BCPS, Reedholm left a class she was responsible for unattended while working at Warren Elementary School. But Reedholm says there is one problem with that allegation. She says she's never worked at the school.
What do you want?
I want my record cleared, and I want to be removed off the do not use list. I don't know what the future holds, but if there's something on my personnel file that doesn't belong to me and it could come up in a job interview, that's a problem. How am I supposed to explain that?
Tonight at 10, the key piece of information BCPS has not provided to Reedholm that she believes can clear her name.
4 GOP presidential hopefuls are gearing up to take the stage for the 4th GOP primary debate. The message one candidate has for the current frontrunner in the race.
And after a chilly day, we're in for a nice rising temperature stretch over the next few days. Tomorrow, still below average, but temperatures reach the upper 40s. And then we jump to the upper 50s on Friday and Saturday before the 60s on Sunday. I'll let you know how long this warmer trend lasts coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.